In the movie The Truman Show, Truman looks at the shining moon in the sky and starts to question the reality of his own world. Then he realizes that everything around him is far from reality and nothing but a lie. All of it is part of a fabricated whole, even the moon he looks at. Some video recordings that have emerged today have started to make some people suspicious. I've received dozens of messages about this, and they asked me if something like this is possible. Is the moon, which we know as the satellite of our world, actually artificial? Or rather, there are two different theories about this. Is the moon actually a plasma or just a hologram? Contrary to what we know. Of course, at first, these questions may seem strange or even like science fiction, but don't be prejudiced right away, because soon we will examine some very important video recordings that make people think this way.
I guess you have a theory about the moon.
10 or 11 years ago, I told various scientists that the moon is not a rock but a plasma, a cosmic plasma.
In 1965, Professor Dr. Foster tried to turn conventional science upside down. Among Foster's theories was that the moon was actually made of plasma, not rock, and that a landing on it would not be possible.
Houston, we have a problem.
Mr. Foster claimed that after deep and determined research was proven, it would be necessary to completely re-examine the laws of nature. What Foster meant by plasma moon was this. As you know, plasma is the fourth state of matter. That is, it is the state where a solid turns into a liquid turns into a gas, and a gas becomes ionized into plasma. Plasma doesn't have a definite volume, so in simple terms, it can be seen but not touched. To make an analogy, it's roughly like smoke that keeps its shape and integrity. So, Foster argues that because of these properties, the moon's a place where you can never land. But is this true? Years after this interview in 1965, on September 27, 2005, an amateur observer named William Guzman prepared his camera to observe the moon and started recording. During the recording, William couldn't believe his eyes. During the observation, some stars could be seen in the dark parts of the moon. Normally, it's impossible for us to see what's behind the moon. This amateur observer claims that when he approached with a telescope, he captured not just one, but several stars. This supported what Mr. Foster was saying. If something like this were true, of course, as Mr. Foster said, it would completely change the laws of nature. But of course, in a moment, we will question its validity. Let's move on to our second theory, the theory that the moon is a hologram. Of course, this claim also has a basis. A YouTube channel called KROV 777 since 2012 starts making observations about the moon. The first video he uploaded to his channel is from 2013, and I think in his statement he says that he had uploaded similar works before. Here's one of those videos. Now, let's watch his video where he explains that the moon is a hologram.
So, to refresh your memories, here is the lunar wave clip. It's going to start right about here. At the bottom of the frame, the wave comes in, the camera pans above the wave, at which point the wave catches up to the camera, which proves that the camera or equipment has nothing to do with it. Okay, so in this clip, I've added a ton of noise. I've manipulated channels, and I've done some blending. Here comes the first wave. I've speeded it up to 200% to exaggerate.
The channel claims this: the ripples on the surface of the moon are not something that normally happens, and this proves that the moon is a hologram. When we look, we see a ripple coming out horizontally from the lower part of the moon upwards. It's clearly seen moving all the way across, almost like a distortion on a digital screen. You might think this is just caused by the camera lens. So, just like this line you sometimes see on screens due to the refresh rate. But here, there's no camera-related issue. Because if you look carefully, when the flickering starts, the person tilts the lens upward, and the flickering doesn't move in the same way as the screen. So this is an event completely independent of the lens. The second major problem is that this moving line is not straight, but slanted to the right. On digital screens, this usually moves completely horizontally. The screen refresh progresses pixel by pixel, and this happens on the same line. The channel that owns the video says in the description that this is not caused by the camera, but is an organic fluctuation. In my research to see if this interesting footage belongs only to him, or if someone else has managed to capture it as well, I came across another recording. In this new footage, this time we see that the fluctuation moves diagonally. The anomalies occurring in these two video recordings are truly interesting and thought-provoking. We can actually consider these as problems, and if we don't know why they happen, let's see if we can prove why they can't happen. The first theory, that is, the claim that the moon is made of plasma. Actually, most of the planets in the solar system have plasma characteristics. Besides these, for example, lightning or the northern lights are both forms of plasma. However, Mr. Foster's theory that the moon is plasma is a baseless idea. At the very least, the hundreds of large and small craters on the moon clearly show that the moon has been battered by meteors. The Aitken Basin on the moon, which is 13 kilometer deep and 2,500 kilometer in diameter, is just one of these craters. This is impossible in a plasma. Besides, the moon has a clear shadow reflected on the Earth's surface. But in plasmas, this shadow doesn't form completely. For example, you can't see the shadow of a low-temperature candle flame, which is a plasma. So, if we consider the moon as a plasma, its shadow on Earth would either not exist at all or would be very faint. Again, the solar eclipse is another piece of evidence. The moon, coming between the sun and the Earth, blocks and reduces the sunlight with its own mass. We wouldn't be able to observe this in a plasma, because it would let the sunlight pass through, and such an eclipse wouldn't occur. Now let's talk about the claim of a YouTuber named William Guzman, who says that stars can be seen behind the moon. During my research, I examined many videos and photos, but I did not witness anything like this. The fact that these images are photographs also means that they can easily be edited. Some stars that appear on the moon can easily be added there with a few edits. If he could have recorded a video of this, of course, we could talk about it more. The person showing the images hasn't shared them in an original source either. If the moon were really plasma, we should have definitely seen the stars behind the moon in many photos and videos taken so far. There is a lot of evidence that the moon is not plasma, but the second theory is different from this. It's the theory that the moon is a hologram. It's true that these wave-like images we see are not distortions caused by the lens or the camera. However, it could be thought that these might be a problem that occurs when they are transferred to digital. Or, just like the mirage we see in the distance on a very hot day, it could be an illusion that occurs while recording that distant point in the sky. I don't know what causes or where this digital moon-like ripple effect on the moon comes from, but I'm sure that the moon can't be a hologram. The word hologram literally means a whole message. It's a Greek word and actually refers to a three-dimensional whole. You must have come across shows made using lasers. Logically, to create a hologram, especially one the size of the moon, you would need a massive laser beam technology. For example, rapper Tupac, who passed away in 1996, was digitally brought back to the stage in 2012 using laser beams. According to their hologram moon theory, a massive laser system needs to be set up. Even if we accept that they could do this, there is a moon that has existed for centuries, so it's completely illogical. You might say that an advanced alien technology in the past did this. But since this is digital, there would definitely have to be a malfunction or a problem. There is no historical record of anything like this ever happening. In fact, there's no need to even question any of this. Because a hologram wouldn't have the mass of a moon, its effects on Earth wouldn't be experienced either. So if the moon were a hologram, this would invalidate the law of gravity. Again, because it would be a hologram, no eclipses could occur. In fact, if we consider that it's a hologram or plasma, dozens more problems would arise besides the ones I've mentioned. There are people on the internet who believe this. and I view them with sadness and even concern. Because it's quite sad that they believe a few images and even make videos about it without doing any research or evaluating the results. Actually, the emergence of such ideas goes back much further. For example, such experiments began in 1945. They even imagined a giant mirror in space and even people who would live inside it. Of course, this was a dream and it remained a dream. Again, in 1993 this time, they actually wanted to create artificial light to save on nighttime lighting by sending a giant mirror into space, a kind of artificial moon. However, this giant mirror entered the atmosphere and burned up after staying in space for only a short time, and it was destroyed. Some countries are still continuing these kinds of projects, and their dreams are getting bigger and even more risky. I hope that in the future, while trying to create an artificial one, they don't destroy the real one. I'm Nigma. See you soon.